Hey everyone, it's 10 Types, and today I'm going to be going over 10 of the weirdest cards rotating in this upcoming rotation. That means they are Sword and Shield era cards and have the F regulation mark. If you're wondering what is rotating, that's how you know. Though there are some cards like, I believe, Boss's Orders and Professor's Research have been printed with an F regulation mark. They've been since reprinted, so there's a handful of trainers that aren't rotating. Of course, Special Energy, or Basic Energy is not rotating. All the Special Energy really all the good ones are, but there are a bunch of cards that are rotating, and a lot of them are kind of weird and kind of bad. And most of the ones we're going to be taking a look at today are admittedly kind of bad or very bad, but they're also really fun cards. We're taking a look at 10 of them, and these will be rotating. They've already rotated in Japan, but they'll be rotating in a month and in a little bit. So if you want to play these cards, play them now. And also comment down below if there are any cards in this video that you think are really cool, and also any cards that you want to see post-rotation, and any other cards you want to see me cover, because I think I'll be doing a part 2 to this video. But these cards are in no particular order, so let's just hop right in. The first card here is Orbeetle. This is from Lost Origin. This set doesn't really matter. They're all obviously from Brilliant Stars through, I guess it could be Crown Zenith, but Orbeetle is a stage 2 and has an attack that does 30 and 50 more for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. Then you have this ability, and this is when you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn. So just an on-play ability, you may attach up to 3 energy cards from your opponent's discard pile to your opponent's Pokemon in any way you like. Of course, the idea here is you would accelerate energy to their active to do more damage, but this is really weird. Like, accelerating energy to your opponent's Pokemon is super strange. Definitely one of the weirdest abilities I've seen. There's also another card in a similar vein. I believe it's a Haunter from 151, I think. Yeah, where you recover your opponent's supporters. So these are abilities that are theoretically helping your opponent. Obviously, it's the idea is not to help your opponent. You could also throw energy on random Pokemon of theirs to kind of get it trapped on Pokemon they don't want it on, like Pheasant DEX is something that popped into my mind. They can attack with it, but it's certainly not that good. So it's a really weird ability, not particularly good. It's not like the attack is super strong. It's okay. It's really funny and a really unique ability, and we'll see a lot of that in this video. The next card here I have is Politoed. Politoed is, again, not very good, as it's a stage 2. Again, 2 colorless energy with its main attack here. Lordly Song Leader, which says if you have Poliwag on your bench, you do 60 more. If you have Poliwhirl on your bench, you do 90 more. And if you have Poliwrath on your bench, you do 120 more. So theoretically, you can be doing, I think, 280, if I'm doing the math in my head right. Yeah. So 280 is like good, I guess, but you need a basic, a stage 1, and a stage 2. The stage 2, they're all of the same evolution line as Politoed, but the stage 2 is not Politoed, just a different stage 2 from the same evolution line. So you're taking up this slot on your bench. I haven't really seen this used. This is definitely a bit of a silly card. I think there's a Metagross that might be coming out soon that's kind of like this, but probably a little better, though they're not super good. We see attacks like this from time to time. They're kind of silly. It's got a weird name. You need all this Pokemon on your bench, and it's not like the other Pokemon are good either. The Poliwrath, I mean, there's a few, and they're okay. Probably a little better than the Politoed, and you could get something going there. This isn't the weirdest attack ever. We see this attack from time to time, but it's always a bit silly, and I figured a lot of you probably don't know, actually, that a lot of these cards exist, so I'm going to point it out to you in case it piqued your interest or is something that you want to stay far away from. The next Pokemon here we have is Mr. Mime. Mr. Mime gets, certainly from time to time, some weird cards. It's a bit of a weird Pokemon, but it has this Tricky Slap, which is the attack we're focusing on here, which says it does 90 for 3, and then you and your opponent play rock, paper, scissors until someone wins. If you win, the attacker, then during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage from and effects of attacks done to this Pokemon. Obviously, if you lose, that doesn't happen. This is, rock, paper, scissors is weird. I bet most of you have never played rock, paper, scissors in live. You've probably not played it really at all in the Pokemon TCG. There's a supporter card, Dan, which is not the best, but it's a card that saw play in the theme deck format in Pokemon TCG Online, so I would not be shocked if you did it there, though that was a while ago by now. But in live rock paper scissors is actually like really good, which is kind of funny. I mean, it's not like it's a lot better. It has like its own interface, and it's pretty good, I think. I hardly remember it. I did it once or twice. I don't remember when I did it. Might have been random battles, which I have not done in a while. But Mr. Mime is really weird for this like mechanic, I guess, that's in the game. I think this is the only card with rock paper scissors in standard. Looking at Limitless, which has looking at its database here. Yeah, Dan has it. Oh, Puku Muku, from which is also in a theme deck. So I've done that as well, though that's not super common. And there's a few other cards I don't really know anything about any of these cards, outside of the three recent cards. I guess they're not like super recent, but Mr. Mime is the only card that does this in standard. It's functionally it's pretty similar to a coin flip, but it's way more fun, I think. Um, it's weird because it doesn't translate super well to online, which is like very weird. Most things are better online because it automatically shuffles and things like that. But Mr. Mime is yeah, it's something, right? These attacks are really weird. The next Pokemon we have also has a weird attack, and that's Malamar. This Pokemon has its attack Synchrokinesis, which says each player reveals their hand. If a card in your opponent's hand has the same name as a card in your hand, this attack does 90 more. This is a card I legitimately forgot about. Most of the, or like almost entirely, most of these cards, I'm not super familiar with, but I kind of know. I love looking at new cards. So every new card from every set, since I've been seriously into the game, I've seen and I've looked at and I've thought about. Um, I forgot about this card, but it is a card that isn't very good even when it triggers. It's only 120 for one on a stage one, which like is not anything amazing. It certainly has the possibility to happen. You could have cards in your deck that are specifically especially common, like I don't know. I mean, you probably want to be playing normal trainers anyway, but you can toss in Vanderpool. I don't really know. I haven't really thought about this card, as I said, and haven't really thought of how you'd use it. Again, it's not super strong, but it's a really unique attack. Really weird. It's not super interesting. It's unique, but it's not very, good. It's not like there's cool payoff, but it's funny. And so I figured I had to include it in this video. Um, yeah, tell me down below if you think this attack could be reworked in some way in the future where it's really interesting. Obviously they could just make it better, but I feel like there's some potential here. It's really unique, feels kind of custom card-esque. Um, so yeah, we'll see what happens with stuff like this in the future. Certainly not the best, but yeah, something interesting. Next card we have here is really interesting. This card was legitimately amazing and still sees play in standard. It doesn't see an absolute ton of play. This is a decent amount. I mean, um, I don't know where the cutoff of the current most recent rotation is. I'm not, someone who pays a ton of attention to tournaments. Apparently, it's seen a bunch of play in the most recent regional tournament. Um, yeah, I believe that's the most recent regional, which is kind of weird. It's an okay card in Lugia, as it can do 190, and it does hit Darkness Weakness, which is kind of nice. It does force to do 60 damage to one of your own Pokemon. It could be itself or one of your bench Pokemon. Um, it says don't. Okay, so I haven't actually read the full. I mean, I kind of have, but it says don't apply weakness and resistance for bench Pokemon. Does that mean that if somehow Drapion V becomes weak to darkness, for example, through Porygon, I believe from 151, can change your weakness to darkness, then you can hit yourself for weakness? I don't know. I actually am really wondering about that. So if someone knows in the comment section, I'd love to know because yeah, I assume you don't because like it's got to be some Zapdos that damages itself, right? Um, and then presumably it doesn't like hit itself for weakness. I can't think of any. I can think of one that damages your own bench. Oh, and it also says don't hit weakness of resistance, apply weakness of resistance to bench Pokemon. So that's a question I have. But the weird thing about this card is the ability Wild Style, which says this Pokemon's because it's not a super good attack. You can PO Lugia and Archeops, but it's whatever. But this Pokemon's attacks cost one colorless less for each of your opponent's Single Strike, Rapid Strike, and Fusion Strike Pokemon in play. Now, UV Max was a really amazing deck when it was in Standard, probably a top 10 deck of all time, maybe. I was never a massive fan of it, but I thought it was decent. I mean, it was good. I imagine a lot of people who played when it was in standard though would say it's an all-time great deck. I mean, I said it is as well just now, but this is a serious counter to it. It is a very good counter to UV Max, not like an auto win card, but a good card. If you had two, it was an auto win. So Drapion V is used to counter that. It can be used against single strike and rapid strike Pokemon as well, obviously. But like not really. They are all mostly fighting as well, so they actually hit you for weakness. But there aren't any of these Pokemon in standard, so this ability doesn't do anything, which is really weird. Drapion V is definitely, really strange for that. That it has the F regulation mark. Um, at some point, I was gonna talk about Choice Belt. I wasn't. I don't know. I'm gonna talk about it at some point. That allows you to do extra damage to Pokemon Vs. Except it's not rotating, which is super bizarre because it's not going to do anything post rotation. It's kind of like that. There's like a Swim Freely card surviving rotation, though Swim Freely is rotating all the other stuff. So that's weird. There's weird things like this where um, cards just don't really do anything. I mean, this isn't an unplayable card. It's a card play in standard some, but it's not a spectacular card. It's kind of whatever yeah, it's just whatever is how I describe it. But this card actually has an ability that literally doesn't do anything. I guess it can like stop you from attacking Cornerstone Master Griffon EX or something like that. But it's like it's so bizarre that there's this actually useless ability in the game right now. But yeah, this card was really good and hasn't rotated, so that's there's so much weird stuff. The next card here is an item card. I've played this card. Yeah, it's played in like Snorlax, and other control decks theoretically. But Lure Module is a trainer that says each player reveals the top three cards of their deck and puts all Pokemon they find there from into their hand, and then they shuffle the other cards back into their own deck. So theoretically, it's better than Great Ball if you have a bunch of Pokemon you hit there, so it like could be better, though not really. It's worse. And then also your opponent can get Pokemon, which is really bizarre. It's quite terrible to be honest, except for the fact that it forces Pokemon into your opponent's hands, so it can be played in control. Which if you know anything about Pokemon Go, the expansion, you know that I don't know. There's a few things, but the main thing I think is Snorlax. Um, Kevin Fossil and I made a video talking about the best cards rotating, and we each put Snorlax. I don't know exactly where he put it. We did decide it was in the top 10. I said I thought it was the best Pokemon rotating, or second best. It was really close, but you have Sinju with Erica's Invitation, which is the reason you could play Lore Module, and it can do a few different things. But Lore Module is well, also, it's like really bad now. You definitely should not be playing this, I don't think, because you have accompanying flute, which is just like much better. But anyways, um, lure module is outside of this very niche scenario, like so bad. It's truly a terrible like item search card, Pokemon search card on an item. We have way better options. I don't know. This is so weird. Pokemon Go had so many kind of weird cards. Um, we talk about some more of them. It's not the best. Next card though we have is another trainer, which is also really weird. This might actually be the strangest card in standard to me. It's a supporter Grant, which says once during your turn, your fighting Pokemon's attacks do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon before weakness or resistance. We see cards like this pretty commonly. That's nothing crazy. It's okay, and it's seen some play within fighting decks. You can look at it in Conkeldurr, or Soluna, wait, this is Blood Moon or Soluna, with which is a fighting Pokemon, Cloth, um, Tinglu EX as well. But then you see it in these other decks, and it's not. They don't play fighting Pokemon, I don't think. I mean, I guess Ancient Box probably plays some, so you could get that's not the fighting credit. You theoretically could get value out of Grant for doing extra damage with like your Slitherwing or something, but that's not likely, right? But what is likely is that you can get value out of its ability. I don't know. It's like a supporter with an ability. It's very bizarre. It says during a turn, if this Grant is in your discard pile, you may discard 2 cards except any Grant from your hand. And then if you do put this Grant into your hand, and this effect doesn't use up your supporter card for the turn, um, this is like super strange. I've never seen any other card like this. Again, in the comment section, if you know of cards like this, tell me. There are some trainers with abilities, like actual abilities, which are the fossils. and those are really unique and kind of weird cards, but they're not, there's a good few cards like them, and functionally, functionally they're relatively simple, I guess. You kind of just follow us on them. Grant is very weird. It's definitely a card that it has an ability. It's not a Pokemon. Like, this is very strange. It can, get back from your discard pile, and it's used to discard cards from your hand. Um, it's okay. It's very strange. I'd love to see more cards like this, though they're weird, and I feel like they could get very complicated very quickly. But these like weird abilities on these cards that aren't Pokemon is really unique. Kind of reminds me of Propagation Execute, which is a somewhat similar card, though used in a very different way. But it's a Pokemon with an ability that's similar to Grant's ability. And yeah, I'd love to see cards like this. As I said, I haven't seen anything like it before, and I guess I'm sad to see it rotate. I mean, it's not that good, because then you end up with a supporter. Because the idea is sometimes to thin your hand as well, and you don't really do that because now you have the supporter that just sitting in your hand that you can't do anything with. But it's still a really cool card. The next card here I have is Wurmple. This is another Pokemon with another weird attack. It's kind of like the Politoed earlier, I guess, which has the attack Creepy Crawly Congregation, which says you search your deck for any number of Wurmple, Silcoon, Beautyfly, Cascoon, or Dustox, reveal them and put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck. Honestly, I thought it put them onto your bench. It's kind of bad. Um, yeah, this attack is really weird. I feel like I don't know if it's quite iconic, but it's certainly an attack with a weird name that really stands out. Wurmple's just so weird. The attack name's so long. That's like the weird part about it to me, and it's kind of wordy and very boring. It's a very nothing attack, but it's unique and it's a card we got. Yeah, Pokemon definitely. You can tell the difference between pocket cards and regular cards. Regular cards have a bit more stuff to them, and that doesn't make them necessarily better, but makes them longer in words. Next card we got is another weird item card from Pokemon Go, which is the item card Egg Incubator, which says you flip a coin. If heads, search your deck for a basic Pokemon and put it onto your bench, and then shuffle your deck, which is just like Nest Ball, which is a very good card. And if tails, put this Egg Incubator on the bottom of your deck instead of the discard in the discard pile. So apparently this card has seen play. This one came fourth in this regional with the Snorlax. I'm not really sure why it's here, to be honest. It's kind of like it's a worse nest ball, right? And then apparently this person who came 353rd in this other regional also played it. And they played one copy. Did the other person also play one copy? Yeah, so it's not the most used card. I have not played this card, I don't believe, but it is a card that is nest ball on a coin flip, which is bad. I think is generally better. Pokeball is kind of bad. It recycles itself, so you can like eventually end up getting the basic, but this is so weird, right? This is definitely Egg Incubator and Lure Module are two very strange item cards from the same set that are quite bad, but in a weird way. So, um, yeah, I figured I had to talk about some of these cards. I haven't really talked about them in quite a while, and they are still very weird. The last card, though, that we're talking about today is a Pokemon, a Radiant Pokemon, a Rulebox Pokemon here. Radiant Pokemon, you can only have one Radiant in your deck, so Radiant Steelix, unfortunately, does not see very much play. That's not much at all. I have played with this, and I have played against it. It's a good, no, it's not good, but it has its first attack, which can accelerate to itself. We see attacks like this all the time. These Pokemon would probably just get one-shotted, so the attack's useless, but it's more or less useless. It's quite bad, but that doesn't matter. The second attack is the one you want to use, and of course there is Metal Energy Acceleration. We actually have our Caledoniacs, but you also have Metang, which is probably fine in this situation, or Magnezone. Then you have your attack, your Destructive Finish. It does 60, and this is actually Mill Attack, where you mill the entire deck except for one card. Except it's your deck. You mill like your entire deck, and it does 30 more damage for each energy card discarded in this way. If you have like if you had 10 energy cards, then that's 360 damage, which like one shots everything. But that's like a lot of energy. That's 13 energy in your deck, and none in the discard pile. And it's also milling your whole deck. So you're not just gonna like win on the spot with this attack using it like turn two. You'll just take a knockout, which is like nice, but you just lost literally all your cards. Well, not your whole deck. You have one card remaining, so you don't just instantly lose. Um, theoretically, but your opponent might just be able to hit you with like a judge and then you lose or something. But that's unlikely. But more likely, you just can't do anything after this. They knock out your Radiant Steelix and then you lose because you have one card left in deck and you've discarded like everything. But Radiant Steelix is definitely one of the weirdest cards in standard right now. It's the Radiants are kind of weird from top to bottom. Radiant Eternus is kind of weird, but Radiant Steelix is definitely super strange. Tell me if you've played with this. I've seen some people play with it, but I hope you enjoyed. Consider liking, subscribing, hitting the bell. Tell me down below what cards you want to see. And as always, I hope you enjoyed, and I'm excited to see you in the next video.